Hello everyone, Berserkhead here, and welcome to this video in which I'm going to be giving you my impressions of this mod called Rise of Christianity, which is very close to what overhaul mods used to be for Rome, Medieval 2, Empire, and so on. We haven't seen a great amount of overhaul mods for Rome 2. This is actually the only one that I know, and still it's not the same because there are some things that it just doesn't change, but it does a pretty good job of changing the setup, adding new units to the game, and doing pretty much what an overhaul should do. And this is the reason why this video is not a mod spotlight, because I just want to give you my impressions, but I just want to play and do that in the meantime. And I feel that the format of the mod spotlight is just not proper. Anyways, first of all, let's go to the units. And let me actually give you a brief summary of what the mod does. So let me go to the new campaign screen. So it changes the setup to, as you can clearly tell by the title, to the 4th century, which is exactly when the Roman Empire, or at least the part of the Eastern Roman Empire, adopted Christianity. And this is the time of the barbarian invasions, and it's actually a great time for a setup. A great time for the mod to take place, because everyone's at war with anyone, because tribes don't like each other, they're at war. At the same time, they're all at war with the Roman factions, and the Roman factions don't like each other, so they're at war with themselves. So it's war everywhere. So it's actually a great setup, and it kind of sets the setup is kind of the same as in the Barbarian Invasion expansion for Rome 1, and that's great. And the main gimmick of this mod is that it changes the culture to religion, which is, I was in two minds about that, but thinking about it is actually pretty accurate, because back in these times, religion actually kind of meant culture. And thinking about it, that's actually the only way you can implement something like that. So it's actually a pretty nice idea. But anyways, let's go and look at the units of the different factions. First of all, that's a Roman faction. That's one of the Roman factions. There are a total number of 4 of them. They all have different starting location and stuff like that. However, they have the same units, which is not a huge disadvantage. It's not something that I would bash the mod for, but I would like to see a little bit more of different units, because look at that. For example, this is the Eastern Roman Empire, and they have these British Bayonet ones, which is a British unit, and they're pretty far away from Britain, so it really doesn't make a lot of sense for me for these guys to have these units. You see what I'm trying to say here? Factions, they shouldn't have that many units. That's a great amount of units, but they should remove some of these and make them unique for the different Roman factions. It would just be overall better this way. But yeah, great amount of units. These units are actually pretty good. You have a great variety. You still have some of the default units from the game. However, their names are changed, and of course they look kind of different. If you go to the Germanic factions, again, they have exactly the same units, but once again, a great variety of units. Really nothing I can say here. There are certain balance issues that I actually have a pretty big problem with, but I'm gonna go into detail about that later. So far everything looks great. The British units, good as well. But if you go to some of the other playable factions, such as the Cormantian Kingdom, you will see that they're kind of lacking in units. These are not great units. That's not a great variety of troops. There you go. And if you go to this faction, Kinda, they have even less units, and you can put your general in a ballista unit, which is kind of weird for me. And yeah, this is something that should be worked on. Maybe they could have added a few more mods to add more units for these factions, because this unit, what the hell is that? Arabic tribesman? Like, seriously? I don't know, they should have just worked on that a little bit. Plus, these guys are supposed to be the Huns, and they're the Roxolani. They didn't even bother to change that. And that's one of the other problems that I have with this mod, that it's not a complete overhaul. It tried to do the job, but it didn't do it very well, because some of the stuff still looks third party, which is something that didn't happen for many Rome 1 and Medieval 2 mods. You know, everything looked very smooth. It just looked like part of the game, whereas here that logo doesn't really look like it belongs here. See what I'm trying to say? But these are my minor complaints. Everything so far is great. But let's jump into a campaign and show you what the campaign map looks like, what the starting situation is, and yeah, and talk about what's going on with this mod. Okay, so here we are finally in the campaign, and never mind what I said, I actually made a minor mistake. These guys actually control Britain, but they still have units like the Thracian auxiliaries and the Thracians like here. So yeah, still my point is valid. Anyways, we're one of the Christian factions, and as you can see, we cannot really convert our settlements yet. So we should do that, and let's see what the diplomatic situation is. Yeah, so the Picts are our main enemies right now, and this faction is very much, look at that, it's huge, and you should fight many barbarians. This is the main thing that this faction should do. They have a cultural affinity with the other Roman factions, however, they dislike barbarians, so that's what you should do is this faction. And as you can see, some of the buildings are changed, not all of them. Like Rome 2 just doesn't allow you to change some of the core things. Like the building system is still the same, they just look differently, some of them, and they do different things, and the prices are changed around, so it's changed a little bit. And it's different for the barbarian factions and the Roman factions as well. If we go and take a look at the technology tree, it's pretty much the same. Once again, some of the names are changed, but it's pretty much the same. Not a huge difference there. But that's a limitation that the game sets, so it's not really the mod's fault. It's actually doing a pretty good job of overhauling pretty much whatever there is that could be changed. And if we actually go to... we should actually level up an army, I think, in order to show you that. Yeah, but they've changed the whole skill system for the generals and the units themselves, which is great. It's not much better than the one that's in the game already, but it gives you more customization. So if you have an army that has a very specific purpose, let's say fighting barbarians, then you can level it up this way, so that it would be very good for that. I'm not going to be playing seriously, I just want to show you a couple of battles, so I'm not going to be paying attention to that. I'm just going to build something random. And as you can see, it's very hard to play as one of the Roman factions when it comes to managing your settlements, because you just have so many of them. If you play as a barbarian faction, you're going to have other difficulties, which I'm going to go into, such as some just balance issues, which I'm probably going to show you right now pretty soon. But that's going to be your main issue as a Roman faction, and of course converting the populace if you happen to play as the Christian factions. Let's build something, and I can pretty much end the turn, and then I'll not just attack a settlement, I'll look for an army that I can find. Just skip that, never mind. I just want to play to show you what's happening with the game. But yeah, this is pretty much what I can say. Like if I gotta summarize everything that I said, it does a pretty good job of making sure that everything is overhauled and that everything is changed as much as possible. However, it's not doing a great job of making it just sync with the game. Once again, some of these things don't really look like part of the game, and now I should be looking for a Germanic army, because there's a point that I want to prove, and in order to do that, I'll have to find an army to fight. So let's end another turn. There we go. So let's end another turn and just try to find a battle that I can play to show you some of the balance issues that I have, because I've been trying to play as the gods. Let's just go straight to my point. Some of the units are just really overpowered, especially the Roman units, because I tried to play as the gods earlier, because, you know, I like Germanic stuff, I like Germanic factions, so I wanted to play as the gods, which are one of the Germanic factions, and I just found it very difficult to win a battle, like, at all, because I had just 3 settlements that didn't provide me with a lot of money, and the Romans, like, kept spamming armies at me. Okay, there's a battle. That's not gonna be the best example of that, because they have just 4 units, and one of these are actually, oh, these are actually not that bad, although all Germanic units are kind of bad. But back to my point, I was outnumbering the Romans 2-1, and I still lost the battle. or I barely won it. Like, it was not supposed to happen this way. It was really difficult for me. And the thing is that the Romans are economically way superior than you are. So they have much more money than you do. So they can spam armies pretty much all the time. And the only thing you can do is basically defend yourself. But at the same time, you have other tribes invading you. And you just cannot maintain an economy that would allow you to have so many troops in order to prevent yourself from getting killed, basically. And you gotta recruit a lot of troops. Once again, you have a great variety of troops. They just suck. They just rout for no apparent reason. That's gonna be easy. Let's see where these guys are. And I think that's actually their faction leader. But you'll see how easy they'll go down. That's probably not the greatest example, but just to make things more even, I'm actually gonna keep my units away from this. And I'm gonna take, let's say, these 6 units, and these are all the units that I'm gonna be using. Again, it's not exactly the same case, but hopefully you'll be able to see my point. So I'm gonna be using these units to defeat these guys, and I'm gonna do it in seconds because these are actually some of the worst units. But even if you get the better units, it's still very hard to win that, because the Roman units are just, they cost about the same, I think. Maybe they're more expensive, I don't know, but they can just go through Germanic and basically barbarian units like crazy. And that's my main concern with the bond, that if you actually want to play as some of these factions, you have serious issues. And I try to play as Garmantia as well, but the thing is that 2 of the Roman factions declared war on me on pretty much turn 1, and I had nothing to do with it, because I had just 1 settlement. I was not able to maintain any economy, and I had shit units. So you see my point. If you play as one of the Roman factions, you're overpowered, as long as you can get through like your management. If you can like get through all the management that you gotta do. But if you try as one of the barbarian factions, it's kind of impossible. At least I find it kind of impossible. That's just another level of challenge that this involves for me, and I don't like that, because come on, I was outnumbering my opponent 2-1, and I still lost the battle. And I'm pretty sure I am not the reason for that, because yeah, sometimes I play bad, but I mean, that bad it was not my fault. I was doing the right thing. I was outflanking the Romans. I was hiding my units and revealing them. I was doing everything right, and I still lost the battle. I don't know how that happened. And yeah, that's my biggest concern with the mod, that it's not finished. There are some things that need polishing. There are more units that should be added. There are more things in general that should be added. Some of the factions should be polished, because, for example, once again, the Huns, they're basically the Roxolani. They're not reskinned in any way, shape, or form. And there is a huge emphasis on their own factions, to the point where you cannot play as any of the other factions if you wish to do so. Because once again, it's very difficult when all the Roman factions declare war on you, plus there is a barbarian faction. And did you see that? The logo was actually pixelated. The quality was bad. So once again, yeah, that's the main thing. It's a great mod, great idea. It just needs polishing. It just needs the units to be balanced, and aside from that, everything is great. Aside from the just the balance issues and the fact that all the factions try to declare war on you at the beginning, it's very hard for you to get allies, and that everyone's trying to attack you. And the fact that some of the units are actually worse than some of the other units that cost pretty much the same price. These are the only problems that I have with the mod. Everything else, it does great. The idea is great. The culture thing is great. The setup is great. As you can see here, I think they've actually changed. Yeah, they've actually changed the settlements. Once again, the leveling system, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to show you that, because I don't think my army leveled up. Oh yeah, so usually have 3 choices here. You see how many you have, and they're really specific. You can still pick, well, these pretty much do the same, but you have way more customization. You have way more ways that you can actually go, and you have different traits here, once again, and some of the buildings are different. And once again, as you can see, they cost different amounts of money. There's some really expensive buildings as well, and the factions start with, you know, they've already researched some stuff, which is great. When it comes to these things, the mod is doing great, but it just needs polishing. That's my point. The unit should be balanced, and the political situation should be a little bit different. But yeah, that's everything that I wanted to say. I don't know, I hope I made my points clear. Hope I didn't repeat myself too much, because I feel like I did. But anyways, that's gonna be it, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.